I have 4 beautiful Crossway Bibles to show you. I'm going to show you one by one, and I'm going to save my favorite, the most beautiful, the one I'm going to keep and not give away. Going to save that one for last. Let's take a look first at this ESV Heirloom Bible Heritage Edition Goatskin Black. I like to keep my boxes around. I've actually already unpacked this. I have it outside of the velvet little cover inside there they had it wrapped in. This is the pledge that comes with all of these new Bibles. The new ESV Bible you hold in your hands was skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. No, wait, wrong. That's the King James. Skillfully created using the highest quality materials, line matching, gilding, a presentation page, 4 ribbon markers. This is a premium goatskin cover. And from what I am told, they got a lot of criticism for doing their Bibles in China, and those were supposedly lower quality. And these, however, are done in the Netherlands. All I can say, because I've actually never cared as much about the physical quality of Bible materials, all I can say is that it all looks absolutely fantastic. The paper is white and clean. The line matching means that you don't see as much ghosting as, Crossway's been doing this for a while. And I really like this format. This is not the very same as the main Bible that I have. This is the Heritage Edition of the Heirloom Bible, and it means that the headings are actually in the body of the text. So judgment on Moab here comes before Jeremiah 48, and here I am in, let's see, I like to go to the Sermon on the Mount, one of my favorite passages, and you can see the headings all throughout it rather than in the margin or wherever else they could be. I guess you could leave them out. I find it to be very helpful. The type size on this one is 9.25, and I think that's what we're going to see on everything I'm going to show. The actual format here is not that different from what we've been seeing, but the quality of the materials is apparently a step up from where they've been. Here is another one, the ESV Heirloom Legacy rather than Heritage. This has the same pledge, the same nice little velvety slip cover, the same beautiful goat skin. This is ever so slightly different than the other one because every goat is an individual. The name of this goat, let me see if I can find it. They name the goats. Actually, I'm just kidding about that. They don't name the goats. This is the format I've been using to preach from for a number of years. This paper looks brighter and whiter than what I've been using. Maybe it's just the studio lights. I kind of don't think so. I really like the GSM. Whatever it is, again, I don't tend to follow the very technical specifications. I'm mainly interested in the typography. I do like it when it folds open, and in my older one that I was given when I was moving out here from South Carolina to Washington, there's a little stiffness somewhere in the binding that this doesn't have. This just flops open and folds open. That really is important when you are preaching, and especially because a lot of preaching, let's just face it, comes from the New Testament, and that means that if there's a little stiffness, then you can have it kind of sitting like this instead of lying flat, because the New Testament is obviously toward the end of the Bible. I mean, I kind of don't want to take the time to go through all this stuff that feels to me kind of standard, but yeah, you can have deaths and births and marriages and stuff written in here. The idea is that you buy one of these and use it for a lifetime. I don't know about you, but I think in America, what I see is that people are not buying these to have them for a lifetime. They're buying them to add to a stack of other beautiful goatskin and other Bibles of various translations. And who am I to complain? We spend money on so many things. Why not on beautiful Bibles? I personally did not spend any money on this Bible. It was given to me by Crossway, as were all of those that I'm reviewing and showing you today. I want to let you know they didn't attach any Bible ribbons to my opinions, but these are my honest opinions. And for the most part, I give all these away, and you know what? If you're the first person to ask me and you show a good need, I'll give you one of these beautiful, beautiful Bibles. I am going to keep one, and I'm going to show you which one I'm going to keep. But this is a beautiful, beautiful Bible I would love to see somebody use. Again, there's not that much new about it. It's just apparently better quality. Let me, however, okay, I'm going to put the Legacy box back on. Let me sneak another little something in here. This is the Greek New Testament with dictionary. I think that most of my viewers do not read Greek, and you know what? That's okay. Most American Christians, most Christians in the world have not been given the opportunity to study and know Greek or Hebrew. I don't think everybody is called to it. I have some friends who kind of wish that everybody were, and I support them, more power to them, but at least as of right now, that's not reality. Why should you even care about this? Well, let me just make a little comment or two to people who love and know the Bible, but who don't read Greek and Hebrew. First, ideally, and this is not what God has to do, and it's not a rule that the Bible lays down, but given the financial ability we have in the U.S. to get good education, most of us, most of the time, have that ability. I know college is harder, seminary is even harder, but if we value learning and knowing the Bible, then we're going to find the money for it. That is, we're going to find the money to pay for pastors who get that kind of training. And ideally, then, you'd be going to a church pastored by a guy who has some ability with the original languages, especially in general with Greek. And there are multiple editions of the Greek New Testament available. I'm going to disappear from the frame for 1 second. Now I'm popping back in and showing you this is the Nestle-Aland 28, or maybe might be the 27th. Yeah, I happen to be holding the 27th. It looks the same as the 28, and it's substantially similar. This is the standard critical text used by anybody who does anything with textual criticism. And it's done by mostly people who don't believe that these are the words of God. And that is very alarming to a lot of our King James only brothers, and I totally get that. I don't think it should be alarming because evangelical scholars, which is what I sort of want to be when I grow up, we have looked over the methodology and the decisions and have come to agree that this is the right way to evaluate the manuscript differences among Greek New Testament manuscripts. However, just because Nestle-Aland 28, or this is the 27th, just because it goes with a certain reading doesn't mean that the evangelical translators who make our English Bibles like the ESV, NIV, NASB, etc., doesn't mean that they have to agree, and they don't always. So translations typically make their own textual critical decisions. And we're talking about mostly really minor stuff. Mostly, is there an and here or not? Does it say Jesus Christ or Christ Jesus? But at a few places where it matters a little more, that get more attention, evangelical translators feel absolutely free to come to different decisions. That is exactly what the King James translators did 400 plus years ago. They actually used 2 different editions of the Greek New Testament, at least, probably more. I do not have it all on the tip of my tongue what other ones they used, but the main 2 were Stephanus of 1550 and Beza of 1598, and there were minor differences among these, and the King James translators decided to go with one some places and with another in other places. Contemporary translators do the same thing, so we're not beholden to the decisions of non-Christian people in textual criticism. Another thing to mention there is that when evangelicals come to translate the Bible and when they come to evaluate the minor differences among New Testament manuscripts that have come down to us through time, they end up coming to the same basic set of conclusions that non-Christian scholars do, biblical scholars, because by and large, the manuscripts of the New Testament say exactly the same thing everywhere. We're not talking about massive differences. So there isn't really all that much to argue about, comparatively speaking. You can dive deep down this hole in other videos that are on YouTube, and I've got a post that I'll try to remember to put a link to in the show notes where you can dig into this more. Anyways, Crossway has come out with their own Greek New Testament, and this is significant. Why is it significant? Because, on balance, I would rather have the New Testament in the hands of evangelical Christian scholars than non-Christian ones, even though I'm not a conspiracy theorist and I can't even think of a single place in the Nestle-Aland 27 where they've done something that I disagree with. I think there is one. I think 2 Peter 3:10 in the 28th edition, I'm going to get a little fuzzy on this, might have one word that I think was unwarrantedly chosen, and that's a really complex discussion, but it doesn't really affect theology. Even though that verse is important for theology, it doesn't affect it because anybody who studies this is well aware of the textual critical difficulties in this verse and is able to come up with their own informed opinion when they write about it. So it doesn't scare me or bother me that I might disagree with their choice at a given place. Nonetheless, even my money, I would rather it be going to evangelicals. And that's what the Tyndall House Greek New Testament is. Tyndall House is an evangelical study center at Cambridge, and the gentlemen there, who are world-class scholars themselves, also believe that the Bible is inspired by God. The editor of this Greek New Testament is THGNT, and I've reviewed a book by him in which he introduces this Tyndall House Greek New Testament. The Greek New Testament with dictionary, Greek text produced at Tyndall House, Cambridge is the official title here, but it's always called the THGNT. THGNT is a former engineer, I think, who ended up getting a PhD in New Testament. And his introduction to this Greek New Testament, put out by Crossway, is itself an excellent introduction to the art and science of textual criticism of the New Testament. Peter J. Williams is another believing scholar whose work I've used actually on numerous occasions. He did some really good work on the Bible and slavery that's available in several places on YouTube, and I highly recommend that. You've also got Peter Head, and I don't know Patrick James, perhaps I should. Drayton Benner is the one who produced the dictionary. I've met him, really sharp guy, really knows his Bible and also his computer, and that's how he got onto this project. So we're talking about some pretty significant names in evangelical textual criticism, and if I go to the acknowledgments, I am certain that I'm going to see some more names that I know. So sure enough, here we are. I see Peter Williams, Peter Malik. I see Elijah Hickson is a good friend of mine. We've actually had quite a bit of interaction in the last couple of years. He's extremely knowledgeable. He now works for Dan Wallace at the Center for the Study of New Testament Manuscripts. He was in a church in high school in which his youth pastor was King James only and was handing him some stuff from the Dean Bergen Society, and that got him interested in this field. And now he stands with me against King James onlyism, but is kind of grateful that that was his entree into the field that he's chosen to serve the Lord through. He's absolutely an evangelical Christian and somebody whose name I encourage you to watch out for in the best way. Peter Montoro. I didn't actually know he's in here. He's a pastor like down the road from me. He is really sharp. Peter Gurry is a respected friend of mine that I was texting with today. Vern Poitras, I run his website, a godly translator of the ESV, an older saint, and a scholar at Westminster, who, by the way, he's like my stock illustration for why King James onlyists are wrong to say that these new Bibles all exist for the money, because Vern Poitras gives away all his books. He builds it into his contracts. I can't say all, but like nearly all. He builds it into his book contract that after a certain period of time, he can give the book available, make the book available freely on his website, which I run. So I've put up the PDFs of his books, and he does excellent work. He has defended inerrancy. He's defended complementarianism. I really, really love Vern Poitras. He was involved in this edition. I also see the name Steve Runge. Steve used to work right down the hall from where I'm standing right now. I happen to be in the offices of Lexham Press. They let me do a little of this moonlighting on the side, talking about Bibles in the little studio space I've got here. Will Varner runs the Nerdy Biblical Language Majors group on Facebook and has long taught at the Master's Seminary. He is partly responsible for the Legacy Standard Bible that John MacArthur has just put out. If you want to know what I think about the Legacy Standard Bible, you can search for the Evangelical Textual Criticism blog, but I'm basically not intending on making any other public statement there, aside from what I've said there, and I'll give you the upshot. here the main that you need to know if you don't go read the article, and that is that I expect the translation to be good because it's based on the New American Standard Bible and done by responsible people, and I wouldn't want to discourage churches from using any good evangelical English translation. I also see the names of folks at Crossway like Lane Dennis and Dane Ortland. This is done by evangelical Bible-believing Christians. And what's neat about this new edition, and it's nice and high quality, and actually the typography is noticeably better than it is in the Nestle-Lalonde editions, which kind of look fuzzy to me. Like, I'm not sure how that ended up happening, but they have their own textual apparatus, which I have not used extensively, and I'm boring everybody who is only an English reader. But at the bottom of the page, it'll show you the different readings that are available in different manuscripts, and they have a different way of evaluating those variants than do the Nestle-Lalonde folks, but it's basically similar, and they come to similar conclusions. But it's in the hands of evangelicals. And what's neat about this edition, I was just about to say, is that they have some stuff in the back, and it's actually hundreds of pages of stuff in the back, where this is really helpful. If you are learning Greek and you come across a word and, for all you know, you actually do know this word, but it occurs in a form that's very difficult. You're not recognizing what the root word is here. You can look at their surface form lemma relation section, and you can find, okay, agia, that comes from hagias. Oh, good. Let's see. Katathonion comes from katathonios. Boy, I picked a hard one. Kataker, and I'm giving the Erasmian pronunciation for anybody who cares about such things, comes from katakraomai. I'm stumbling because I'm actually having a little bit of trouble seeing this also in the bright light of my studio. It's kind of dazzling me a little bit, but that's a really useful feature. And then they also have a basic dictionary in the back, which is very basic but helpful. Oh, and don't let me forget, they have etymology group relations. So this is something you can do in Logos. You can basically see the root word behind the various words in the New Testament. But it's very handy for lots of people who prefer paper to have a dictionary in the back. And I'm probably going to hold on to this one unless somebody really begs me and they really, really want me to give this away. I already have the one without dictionary, but I do occasionally need a Greek New Testament and physical copy with a dictionary in it. Nice slipcase. This will last you a long time. Very much appreciate the work of Crossway and Tyndall House. And if you're going to buy a Greek New Testament anyway, and your professor says, got to get an NA28, well, fine, you can. But also, you could go to him and say, dear professor, can I buy a Greek New Testament from Tyndall House put out by Crossway? I think they're nicer quality. The type is nicer, and even if the textual apparatus is not the current standard, in academia, I think that's totally fine because the amount of textual criticism you're actually going to be doing as a pastor, most people studying Greek, is going to be low enough that I don't know that you really need the NA28, and I think that you could get by with buying it later and getting the apparatus in Logos or something. That's actually what I've done. I also like the THGNT that we've done here. I think that's a particularly useful apparatus for pastors. And since we were involved in it here at Faith Life Logos, that makes me feel like, yeah, evangelicals did have a role in it, but Crossway is nearer and dearer to my heart theologically than any other group that's put out a Greek New Testament. So, okay, I promised the top choice that I have, and I've got it right here. This I've been looking forward to, and I'm sorry I am not giving this away, but this is what I'm keeping because I am into Horween leather. This is the Heirloom Bible Heritage Edition in Horween leather. It's the highest grade cowhide from the Horween Leather Company, which has been renowned for over 100 years, and I happen to be wearing a watch that has a Horween leather band. And though I'm not wearing them today, I have two pairs of boots from Alan Edmonds. I really saved my birthday and book money for a while to get these. It took me years so I could get those. I've got brown and natural leather, and they're Horween, and they really are the best. This is not the softness of goat skin. I don't know, what are you supposed to say? You have to touch this. It's not gilded, I think, because Horween is just tougher. It isn't, again, as soft and pliable, although it's still fairly soft and pliable. But it's so nice to the touch, and it, over time, ages in a way that's really pleasing. That's what Horween leather is known for. I have one of my pairs of boots has done that, and the other one is newer and hasn't done that yet. I kind of can't wait to see what it looks like. My second pair of boots is like identical to this. It's the same beautiful, lush, slightly reddish brown, although who am I to say, because I am slightly red-green colorblind and I actually cannot see red in small traces. And I love this. Still, I think 9.25 point text. I think that's a great size. It's a lexicon like all the other Bibles I've showed you, other than the THGNT Greek New Testament. And it's a little bit more efficient in its use of paper because it has the headings inside the text, like the first Heritage edition that I showed you. I think it's also elegant, the Heirloom editions, when they put it out in the margin, but this would be so handy to preach from. Some people say to me that they don't like preaching from single column text, that and if it's paragraph, they have a hard time finding where they're at, but I just don't have that problem. I don't know why. I've trained my eyes to look for this sort of thing, I guess, over a long period of time. It's just not a problem. This is the kind of thing that I think could last and last. And I haven't kept the other nice ESV Bibles because I just couldn't in good conscience, when a nice one that was given to me as sort of a parting gift from the ministry that I was leading in Greenville, South Carolina before I came here. But Horween leather is something really extra special. I thought goat skin could not be beat. And, if that's what you like, then that it can't be beat. It's beautiful. It's supple. I love it too. But I've already got that. But the Horween I don't have. So I'm going to hold on to it. Oh my goodness. It's just so nice to touch. Ooh, hoo, 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 hoo. Did I sell you on this? Okay, well, don't covet, okay? We don't have to all have every nice thing, and I don't buy every nice thing that I possibly could buy. But where I put value on items is technology. I really want everything to be fast, and in my books. So I put a lot more money actually into Logos Bible software. I still do. And yes, into Kindle for books that I can't get on Logos, than I do in, I don't put a lot of money into, I don't know, what else do guys put money into? Cars, golfing equipment, that's fine, if that's the way they want to spend their money. But if I'm going to buy a physical book, it is going to be something that I really need or want. And if I am going to have a Bible that I use regularly, I care a whole lot about the typography. It needs to communicate quickly to me what kind of literature I'm in. It needs to be beautiful. And there's just nothing so far that beats the overall level of quality that every single Crossway ESV Bible has. I think they still set the standard even above. My apologies to Klaus Erik Krogh of 2K Denmark, whom I've had on the channel. He is excellent. His work is absolutely excellent. I'm so grateful for it. But to me, the gold standard still is Crossway. They didn't actually make the lexicon font that's now used, I guess, in most of their Bibles. But they chose it, and it was an excellent choice. I think it befits the Bible and this more formal translation very well. I have a post on my blog, and I'm rambling a little bit here, that has been one of the most popular of my blog's whole history, where I contrast the ESV and the NASB. I'll be right back. And I've got a NASB right here that was also sent to me by the publisher. This is the Cambridge Bibles Clarion Reference Edition, brown calfskin leather. And I am planning on holding on to this too, because I haven't had a nice New American Standard Bible up until now. I've just had comparatively poorer editions. This also is very elegant, and do mine eyes deceive me? I hadn't actually looked at this in advance, but I believe this might also be lexicon. You know, I really should know that. This is really bad that I don't. This is the nicest NASB edition I'm aware of. When I did an issue of Bible Study Magazine not long ago that talked about the best editions of each individual major evangelical English Bible translation, this is the one I chose, but they didn't get it to me in time, so it didn't make it into the issue, so I chose Bibliotheca. I'm going to find out what typeface they use, if they will possibly tell me. Let's see, Cambridge.org, so elegant. This really looks like lexicon to me. Yep, lexicon number 1A by Blue Heron Bookcraft. This is an 8.75 point. This is a very elegant setting. Cambridge really does their stuff well, and this is a beautiful Bible with a beautiful goatskin binding. But anyways, that post on my blog contrasts the NASB with the, I'll just hold up this, ESV, and I basically said they're so similar. I tried to compare them diligently as a beginning seminary student, and I started to realize fairly quickly there's just no winner. They're both great. ESV tends to be viewed as more literary, and it's more directly in the line of the King James, maybe, depending on how you look at it. You could also see the NASB as being pretty well equally the same level of grandchild from the King James Version. I tend to like to stick with the King James tradition, as I've said before, if I possibly can. But there just aren't that many nice editions of the New American Standard Bible. I'm sorry, they're just behind. And they've been behind for many, many years. Really, as soon as the ESV came out, all the editions were nice. I can't say every single one was equally well done, but I can almost say that. I can't think of anything that was just a total failure. And I think the ESV has a lot of different kinds of editions, like journaling editions and, verse-by-verse editions. Some preachers do seem to need that, and yet they're still collected into paragraphs that are obvious through the headings. I think that's really good. I showed you the Heirloom, and I showed you the Heritage. Those are both excellent editions. You just can't go wrong with the ESV. And so I said I give the nod to the ESV if that's my choice, ESV versus NASB. And in a lot of churches it is, because they have the idea that formal translations are what is required. I would still do that. I'd give the nod to the ESV for the same reason. I'm glad to say other translations are catching up, but the number and quality of great ESV editions still, to my mind, exceeds that of any other translation, including the NIV, which is probably in second place because it does have a lot of nice ones. The only thing I'd really like to see, Crossway, if you actually watch this video, I know you hand out these review editions and you don't necessarily follow up with me. I usually let you know, Crossway, that I've actually done the video that I promised to do. And this is not quid pro quo, by the way. They never check with me to see what I actually do with these Bibles. I just tell them I love what you're doing and I want to promote it. Anyway, Crossway, if you're listening, I would still like to see a single volume reader's edition that picks up on some of the very minor criticisms that I made of your existing ESV Reader's Bible, which is now a good 7+ years old, where you still put in the chapter numbers. I'd really like to see a pure one volume ESV, single column, reader's edition, paragraphed. That would be wonderful. I would also like to see ESV do something like the Traveris that I went ahead and put in as my top ESV Bible in my spread about the top Bibles. I really bit my tongue a little bit when promoting the Traveris because it is beautiful, and I gave it away, and it was hard to give it away because it had this really beautiful blue goatskin cover. I gave it to a PCC student, just so you know. Anyway, I really liked it, but the drop caps, they just screamed at me. And you know, one thing they were screaming alongside of screaming, "Gaudy, gaudy, gaudy," is Crossway didn't make us, Crossway didn't make us, Crossway didn't make us. I saw those drop caps and I thought, there's no way in the world that Crossway's designers would make screaming drop caps like that. They're just like on every other page practically, because I believe they're used at the beginning of every chapter. It's kind of handy instead of using numbers to show off the chapter divisions, but no, don't do that. Crossway, I'd love to see something like the Traveris with the numbers down the outside of the columns, just letting me know where the verses are. And I'd love to see something very much like that, but with no verse numbers whatsoever, just beautifully set. And by the way, while we're at it, my last wish is that you go back and look at the Books of the Bible TNIV edition from quite a number of years ago. Check out how they did poetry in, say, the Psalms or Proverbs, where instead of indenting, using indentation to mark off the different versets, they would actually justify them equally to the left, but then they would just kind of add a little bit more leading before and after a given pairing of versets, so you know what lines go together. I still think that's the best way I've seen to do poetry. That means you can't do line matching in those areas, and that is less than ideal. It's less than an ideal world. In heaven, we'll have perfectly opaque, very thin Bible paper. I'm sure we will. Now we don't. You got to make a choice. I'd love to see Crossway at least try to do what I've described, and go back and look at those Books of the Bible editions. Read up on what Christopher R. Smith said in his book After Chapters and Verses. I mean, this is going to be old hat to you, most of it, but I really like that one little feature. Okay, I have rambled. I usually like to script my videos, but people seem to like these little Bible review videos, and every once in a while I'd like to put one out. Thank you. If you made it this far, like, wow, good for you. Maybe you'll be the first one to ask me for one of these Bibles, and maybe I'll send it to you.